Hello and welcome back to the NHL Best Bets. Yesterday there were a lot of good games, like in ice hockey. There are many times in NHL is. We had a few games that we picked, and let's go those through first. Um, there were Florida hosted Carolina in one of the top matchups of the West Division and maybe whole Western Conference. Very tight game, and then in overtime, Carolina took 3-2 victory. I think coin flip like the previous one, but now Florida basically stopped the great momentum at the end of the third period and let Carolina back in the game and tie the game without the goalie. Then Vancouver started with a very strong offense. First period in Winnipeg won that 3-0, won the whole game 4-0, and Winnipeg was not even close to have anything significant in offense, even though they were shooting quite a bit, but not so high quality chances there. Tommy, how do you saw these games?
Yeah, definitely an off night for us in the simulations and also in our picks. Like you said, Florida should have maybe continued their efforts in the third period of that game. They shot 23 times in that third period, and yet they lost their lead in the final minutes of the game and then went on to lose in the overtime. So quite a horrible result for the Panthers team that were very competitive throughout the whole game. And then Winnipeg also had a bit of an off night. They did play okay, but Vancouver scored early 3 times, and it was then all chasing the whole game. So Winnipeg couldn't pull that off, and not very good pick either. But again, sometimes these things happen. We barely got anything right tonight, so maybe let's continue and just grind through it and make better picks next time.
Yeah, I think there were a few surprises. I think one of our picks that one game that we discussed yesterday was Minnesota visiting Vegas, where some spectators were also in the game, and Minnesota was driving the game pretty surely, but then Vegas, as a strong team, usually can turn the game in last period and then won it overtime. So that is one clear message that Vegas is maybe currently top team in the West. Meanwhile, Colorado visited San Jose, and even though they were leading 2-0 and outshot San Jose 35-27 in the game, San Jose scored 6 goals in a row and won the game 6-2. So Colorado has created chances in last games, but it looks like their finishing touch is maybe gone to some kind of winter holiday.
Yeah, it was in many games that these sort of, if you take a look at the statistics, you wouldn't believe what the final score was. So it kind of went the opposite in a similar way that we did predict Vegas game to be really close one, which it was, a low scoring one, which it was not. So Vegas managed to score 5 goals this time, and that's what they needed in order to win. So it's a good example that Vegas can pull back and score goals as well when they have to, but they haven't been doing so recently. So it was a good win for Vegas for sure, and a competitive match from Minnesota. So good game from both of the teams, because they showed that Minnesota especially showed that they can compete with the likes of Vegas and the top teams as well, not only beating the lower California teams. And then, like you said, in San Jose, Colorado was run over in the end by San Jose, so it was a bit of a surprise as well. So not much to tell about the value there. So the favorites were losing in a couple of places.
Yeah, tonight new night, new games and new picks, and today we have gone through the games, and as Carolina was the strong team last night, they continued their road trip, this time to Nashville. Carolina is generally much better team than Nashville, even though Nashville has improved recently the game a bit by winning Columbus twice in very even games. But Hurricanes is generally much better team than Nashville, so we expect them to continue their road wins this time. And then New York Islanders goes to New Jersey. Two very defensive teams haven't been able to score a lot, except Islanders won against Boston when they scored 7 goals, but usually it's 2-3 goals max for these teams, and under 5.5 with minus 118 odds is a very good value for the second game here.
Yeah, the Nashville played against Columbus in those games. Neither team was very good, so those were not good games at all. So it is a bit of a false positive for Nashville in those games. They did manage to get the points, but they did not perform really well. And Carolina is completely different team compared to Columbus, where Nashville did manage to match Columbus pretty well. They are no match to Carolina. If Carolina is playing this high-octane offense as they usually do, of course they are in the back of the overtime win against Florida in a tough matchup, so might be a little bit something there. But they are a youthful, energetic team, and I don't think that the back-to-back will affect them too much. And with these odds, Carolina, as one of the better teams in that division, is a good pick against Nashville. And then the New York game, like you said, very defensive teams. Neither team, well, New Jersey has not played well. They've lost at home a lot. They haven't been able to get their stride going as they did in the midway of this season. They had a couple of wins there. They played pretty well. Now they have not done so. Islanders played pretty well against Pittsburgh, but now it's a whole different ball game again, going to New Jersey and playing this sort of a grinding team again, which might be a good matchup for the Devils as well.
And we have been able to predict these totals for these two games reasonably well during this season, or what kind of numbers we have for New York Islanders New Jersey game?
Yeah, overall we've been doing really well with these two teams, particularly while some others not so much. But in this case, we do have New Jersey at home. We predicted 7 of their games. We had 6 picks correct, made a profit of 490. And same thing, Islanders on the road. We have 10 games predicted and 8 correct, so plus 580 there. So these two teams in particular, we've been pretty much correct all the time. So let's keep this going and hope that they're not scoring goals.
And similar kind of statistics can be found for the Carolina-Nashville game. In last 3 seasons, they met 6 times, so not very many, but still Carolina has won all the games on the road when they visited Nashville, and they won 2 out of 3 at home. They also won the lone game in the beginning of the season when Carolina won 4-2 in Nashville in the lone game that they've met so far. And there Nashville was shooting quite a bit, but I think earlier the season the quality wasn't there, and then they just stopped shooting overall in the many games. So I also agree that Carolina is a bit better team, and maybe the false positive from the 2 wins against Columbus is giving indications for Nashville that they shouldn't get.
Exactly, and this is the sort of test also for Carolina now after a Florida game, after losing to Tampa Bay. Nashville is the sort of team that Carolina does have to beat. Of course, in every game you get 2 points, so it is every game is important, but these especially, that you have to show that you're able to beat these lower position teams in order to fight at the top.
Yep. Then there are a few other games that have reasonably interesting results from the simulations. So Do you think that these road underdogs would provide some kind of sensible betting cases? Ottawa goes to Montreal, they have some value. Detroit goes to Columbus, they have some value on the road. And Buffalo goes to Madison Square Garden, plays against New York Rangers. They have also some value based on the machine. Would you bet this three road parlay?
Probably not a parlay, but I might try some of these because this is mostly due to the odds being really heavily favoring the home teams. The home teams that are not that much better than their visitors. If you take a look at New York Rangers against Buffalo, Rangers very disappointing this season. Buffalo also, but much closer matchup there than the odds would indicate. Odds are around 60-40 to the Rangers, so I think Buffalo has a good chance to surprise. They have to start getting some points as well. That it's not that bad a team that they've been they look at times. And then Columbus, there is a lot of issues there. They haven't been able to score. Their defense isn't there. Their work rate is all over the place, so they're not playing like Columbus usually is. Of course, Detroit, we've been bashing them all season long, but they've been able to win some games. They've been able to score some goals. So when you get these sort of odds for Detroit at Columbus, it's plus 160. That's a massive side value there for compared to our simulations. We have about 47% for Detroit, and the odds are 37. So of course, when you have this sort of value, it's worth a try. And I think the same thing, Montreal. We've been predicting that they shouldn't do so well as they did early in the season. Now they came down a little bit. Ottawa's been surprising. They did play last night, so maybe stay away from that one. But still, Ottawa does have the chance to surprise any of these Canadian teams as we've seen so far.
How about then the rematch of the last Stanley Cup final, Tampa against Dallas? Dallas was humiliated by Tampa in the previous games. A few nights ago, Tampa won 5-0. Now these teams are playing in Dallas. Do you think home team will bounce back?
I don't think so. I think Tampa Bay is at the moment the best team in the league, and they're quite impossible to beat. I think it will be more a closer game than that 5-0 beating they took earlier, but still I have Tampa as favorites, and so does the simulations, if only for 0.6% compared to the odds, but 60% for Tampa Bay, 40% for Dallas. So I think Tampa Bay at the moment, the way they are playing, Dallas does not have a chance here.
Okay, let's see what kind of chances they have, and if there is any other team that can surprise our machine or great fans of hockey all over the world. Tomorrow we'll be back with new games and new picks.
Let's do that.